Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Danielle. If you follow me on social media, my handle on Instagram is Hello Happy Plants, and today those of you that follow me on Instagram are going to be super excited because we are finally talking about my variegated bananas. I get a lot of questions on Instagram about them, so I thought finally I would take the time to answer all of those questions and put them in a video so that way anyone who wants to see or has questions can go back and refer to it. So to start off, like many of you, I got into aeroids during COVID, and as soon as I saw variegated bananas, I think one of the first ones that I saw was Rachel, I Want My Plants variegated banana, and I absolutely fell in love with variegated bananas. She lives down here in South Florida. I live down here in South Florida as well, and she had mentioned that she got her banana from Perfect Choice Nursery, and they're about 45 minutes from me. So from that point on, I was on the hunt to find a variegated banana, and I ended up finding my variegated bananas from Perfect Choice Nursery. So I believe it was in July 2020 was when I first saw that they had the yellow variegated bananas. So I ran down there and grabbed one. My yellow variegated banana is called the Musa Namwa. I believe it's also been called an ice cream banana. That's what I've been told, so that's what I'm going with, but that is the yellow variegated banana. So that is the first variegated banana that I got, and I believe I spent $250 on that banana. And then a couple months later, I believe it was like August, they ended up having the white bananas, and I absolutely had to have a white banana. So I ran down there and grabbed a white banana as well. So there's two types of white bananas. There is the AEA, and then there's the Florida variegated banana, and those are both white variegation. And the way that you can tell them apart is the Florida variegated banana has pink on the stems and on the lining of the bananas. And that's what I was told these two are, and it does have that. I'll zoom in and show you a closer look in a little bit. So my white bananas are the Florida bananas. I only purchased one, and it was, I think I spent $275 on it. And again, this was like peak COVID times. So it was $275. It was a 2-leaf banana in a nursery pot. And that was in August 2020. So I got both of my variegated bananas in July and August 2020. I left them in their pots for a while. And then I think in about 2021, summer of 2021 is when they started declining a little bit. So I decided to plant my yellow variegated banana in the ground. I believe it was September of 2021. And by spring of last year, which was like April 22, they took off. It started producing so many pups. I think I got 8 pups out of it. And unfortunately, I did not separate them in time, and they got huge really fast. And it got to the point where I couldn't separate them because they were just too big, and if I tried to pull them out of the ground, they probably would die because they were too big. So this time we're gonna separate these before they get too big. And so then with my white variegated bananas, I had one variegated banana, and I believe in, again, spring, summer 21, it started producing pups. It was still in the pot at that time. It started producing pups, and so I separated one of the pups. This was like my first time propagating bananas, and it ended up dying, so I left it alone. But by summer, fall of 2021, the banana itself started declining. It wasn't doing well, and I had 3 pups in the pot, and so I decided I would separate each of them and just see what happens. I'm no way an expert with variegated bananas, but I figured, you have to learn somehow. And so I had my mother plant that was basically dying, and then I had a few pups in the pot, so I was like, let me separate them and see how they do. I ended up planting one of them in the ground. It is doing really well. It's probably 8 feet tall now. I'll show you that one. And then I planted the rest in pots. So I now have 1, 2, 3, 4 bananas left. What I learned with the variegated bananas, they absolutely love to be planted in the ground. They are gonna thrive. They're gonna do much better in the ground. If you keep them in the pot, this has happened to me 2 years in a row now, the mother plant eventually declines, but when the mother plant knows that it's gonna die, it will eventually produce pups before it dies. So this winter, the bananas were not too happy about the winter, and so both of my mother plants started declining, and sure enough, I noticed they both put out pups as soon as they started declining. So I don't expect these mother plants to live. They're still, like, this one's barely alive. This one put out a leaf, which I'm actually really surprised about, but this one is probably gonna die. But both of them put out pups, so that's a good sign. The pups need to be separated, or these need to be repotted, but that will be for another day. So let's get to a lot of the most commonly asked questions about the variegated bananas now that I've told you how I've acquired mine. One of the first questions that I get asked a lot is, do the variegated bananas produce fruit? Yes, they do. Variegated bananas are just like regular bananas. They will produce bananas. My white variegated bananas have not produced any bananas yet, but that's okay because I actually just really enjoy looking at the foliage. It's just so pretty. But what's cool about the white variegated bananas is once they produce fruit, the bananas are actually variegated, like white and green, which is really cool. My friend Samantha, my tiny green jungle, her banana is producing fruit right now, and I'm so excited to see her variegated bananas. My yellow variegated banana actually just produced bananas for the first time this year. So I believe it was January or February, I noticed that it started producing bananas, and I will give you a closer look at that in a little bit. It's hard to tell if they're variegated or not. We'll do a little bit of a close-up and see. I think they're mainly green, but the stem that the fruit comes out on is variegated, which is pretty cool. Another commonly asked question is, are the bananas edible? Majority of the time, yes, they are. I have been told that these variegated bananas, the fruit from them is edible. I would always do your research and double check and make sure, but I've actually heard that the ice cream banana fruit is actually really sweet, so I'm really excited to try that one once it ripens. The one downside though of the bananas producing fruit is that means that the mother plant is going to die. So I actually did not know this at first, but I found out once a banana produces fruit, it served its purpose and the mother plant will actually die. And that's usually why they produce pups, because once they produce fruit, they know they're gonna die, so then they produce new pups to grow and produce new fruit, which is actually kind of sad. I wasn't too excited when I first saw the bananas. I was excited, but also at the same time it was kind of bittersweet because that meant that my 15-foot yellow banana was gonna die, and I have no idea like how I'm gonna, take care of that 15-foot heavy banana. But I guess we'll see when the time comes. We'll deal with it. Another commonly asked question is, do you grow bananas from seeds, or how do you propagate bananas? So the easiest way to propagate bananas, again, is by the pups that they produce. So you have your mother plant, and then you have your little offshoots, which are called pups. And usually I wait until they have quite a few leaves, like maybe 3 or 4 leaves, and then I would separate the pup from the mother plant. That is the easiest way to propagate bananas. I'm not really sure how you propagate bananas or grow bananas from seeds. Like the seeds that come in an actual banana plant they're not going to produce bananas. I don't know if there's another type of seed or a certain type of banana that you can grow from seed, but the most common way that people propagate bananas is from the pups that come off of the mother plant. Another commonly asked question is, how big do banana plants get? You definitely need a lot of space. If you're going to plant them in the ground, you need a lot of space. Bananas are actually quite invasive. Like once you have a mother plant and it starts producing pups, they take up a ton of space. I actually didn't realize that, and I probably would have kept my banana in a pot versus putting it in the ground because it has taken over this area. And the mother plant is huge, and the pups are as big as the mother plant now. I want to say some of them the mother plant's about 15 feet, and then some of the pups are like 8 to 10 feet tall, and they're just really huge plants. If you keep them in a pot, they're going to stay a lot smaller. If you grow them in ideal conditions, like I live in South Florida, tropical climate, it's an ideal condition, they're going to grow much bigger, much faster than, if you live in the Midwest or somewhere or Northeast where it's cold and you try to grow them inside. I'm honestly not too familiar with growing bananas indoors, so I'm not an expert on that, and I could not give you tips on how to grow bananas inside, because mine I grow outdoors, and it's honestly really easy. Mother Nature takes care of them for the most part. But I can tell you how I grow mine outdoors. So as I had mentioned, when I first got my bananas, they came in a nursery pot in soil. I left them alone until I started seeing like a lot of roots, and then I knew they were due for a bigger pot. and I was told to just put them in like regular Miracle-Gro soil and add some perlite. So I actually didn't use Miracle-Gro, I used Fox Farm. I use pretty much Fox Farm's soil for all of my plants. But I just do a mix of Fox Farm soil and perlite, and I kind of just eye it, and that's how I repotted my bananas. That's how I pot all of my bananas, and they seem to do really well. A good mix of Fox Farm soil and perlite. And Fox Farm soil actually already has a lot of like fertilizer in it and nutrients in it, so I don't even usually add anything. And besides that, so that's for the potted bananas. The ones in the ground, I honestly do nothing. A lot of people ask me for care tips on the ones that are in the ground, and because I live in South Florida, it's a tropical climate and I have ideal conditions for them, I honestly don't do anything to them. I just let the rain and sun take care of them. They are in mostly full sun. They can handle full sun or shade. The more sun you have, they do need to be watered more. And I'm in a townhouse, and my sprinklers kind of just take care of watering them, so I don't even really water the variegated bananas. So in regards to like expertise on caring for them, I'm not really an expert. I just see what works for them, but I actually don't really do anything. I leave it up to Mother Nature and my sprinklers. So I know that's not that helpful, but I do know that they need a lot of water. But it still needs to be well draining like any of your other aroids. So they like a lot of water, but they don't want to be sitting in full water. And they grow roots so fast. So they do need upsize in pots quite frequently. And I think that's why mine struggle so much, is because I'm not good about like keeping up with their pot upkeep. So another commonly asked question is like, where can you get bananas? There are a lot of importers. You can import bananas. I have never imported bananas. I know there was a ban back in 2021 on importing variegated bananas. You know, I think there's a lot of pretty strict USDA requirements when it comes to importing bananas because they're fruit, and you know, you don't want them messing with like our actual fruit in the United States. They could bring over, you know, some diseases, funguses, who knows what. So I know for a while there was a ban on importing certain bananas. I think it's been lifted and you can import bananas now. You know, if you have like a reputable importer that you would want to import them from. I bought my two locally from Perfect Choice Nursery, but they would have imported their bananas. I would say with variegated bananas, if you're gonna buy one, definitely buy from a reputable seller. Try to buy locally if you can. I know I'm spoiled in South Florida where I have access to so many plants that a lot of people don't, and a lot of people do have to ship plants. If you do, just do a lot of research and just try to make sure that they don't have any negative reviews, that you're actually gonna get your plants. Just because I know there's so many issues with shipping and importing plants. There's actually also a variegated banana Facebook group, I believe, and then there's like plant purge review groups. So you can always maybe post on there to see if anyone's locally has purchased or imported variegated bananas, and does anyone have any recommended sellers that they would recommend. That's probably what I would do if I didn't have access to them locally myself. Thank y'all so much for joining me today. I hope that this was informative and insightful, especially if you're new to variegated bananas. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, feel free to drop them below and I will happily try to answer your question. Thanks guys, bye.